All right, today we're cracking open the armory of modern medicine to take a look at antibiotics. These are our frontline soldiers against bacterial infections, and we're going to explore the incredible and diverse strategies they use to keep us healthy.
I mean, really think about it. You're feeling awful, you take this little pill, and in a few days, you're back on your feet. What is actually going on in there? Well, it's a full-on microscopic war. And that pill is your secret weapon, unleashing a really sophisticated plan to take down those invaders.
And believe me, this isn't some kind of scattergun approach. Every antibiotic is like a highly trained specialist, designed to exploit one very specific weakness in the bacterial enemy. And understanding that strategy is the key to knowing how they work and, just as important, how to use them safely. So, there's a fancy scientific term for this battle plan, the mechanism of action. It's just the specific way each drug either stops bacteria from multiplying or, just wipes them out completely. So let's dive in and look at 4 of the biggest strategies in our arsenal. Okay, first up we've got the saboteurs. These antibiotics go right after the bacteria's ability to make proteins. And proteins are the absolute essential building blocks for their survival and for making more bacteria. So no proteins, no new bacteria. You're basically shutting down the enemy's entire supply chain.
Now, this sabotage can look a couple of different ways. Over on the left, you've got tetracyclines. These are what we call bacteriostatic. They basically just hit the pause button on the factory, stopping the bacteria from multiplying so your own immune system can swoop in and clean up. But on the right, aminoglycosides are bactericidal. They don't just hit pause, they go in and wreck the machinery. They're out to kill. So where do we actually use these things? Well, tetracyclines are often the go-to for things like acne or H. pylori infections. And here's a really important heads up. Stuff like milk or antacids can actually block them from being absorbed properly. Aminoglycosides, on the other hand, are the heavy hitters. They're reserved for serious infections, especially from certain gram-negative bacteria, which have this tough, armor-like outer shell. They are so potent, in fact, that they require careful blood monitoring to make sure the dose is perfect.
Now, one of the weirdest, but most common side effects of tetracyclines is something you probably wouldn't guess. If you're on a drug like doxycycline, you have to be super careful in the sun. It causes what's called photosensitivity, which means you can get a nasty sunburn way faster than normal. Seriously, a hat and sunscreen become your new best friends.
Okay, but for those heavy-hitting aminoglycosides, the stakes get way higher. That blood monitoring is so critical because the line between a dose that works and a dose that's toxic is razor thin. Too much can cause ototoxicity, that's damage to your hearing and your balance, and nephrotoxicity, which is serious kidney damage. They're incredibly powerful tools, but they absolutely demand respect.
All right, moving on to our next class. These guys are the code breakers. Instead of targeting the factory, these drugs go straight for the enemy's headquarters, their DNA. They basically corrupt the blueprints, making it impossible for the bacteria to repair themselves or to make copies.
We're talking about a group called the fluoroquinolones. What they do is block an enzyme called DNA gyrase, which bacteria desperately need to keep their DNA organized and accessible. By jamming up that process, they bring everything to a grinding halt. And they're super versatile, used for everything from UTIs to nasty bone and joint infections.
But, and this is a big but, all that power comes with a very specific and serious warning. It's rare, but these drugs can cause tendinitis and even tear a tendon. So the key takeaway here is simple. If you are taking one of these and you feel any sudden pain in a tendon, especially your Achilles, you need to call your doctor immediately. No waiting.
Now for a little history lesson. Before we found antibiotics growing in nature, like from mold, scientists were actually building them from scratch in the lab. Let's talk about the OG lab-made weapons, the sulfonamides.
Think about it. Back in 1935, these sulfa drugs were an absolute game changer. They were used all over the place during World War II and literally saved countless soldiers from dying of infected wounds. And yeah, we have a lot of other options now, but they are still a reliable choice for certain infections, especially UTIs.
And their strategy? It is so clever. See, bacteria have to produce their own folic acid to build DNA. Sulfa drugs just block that production line. And you might be thinking, wait a minute, don't we need folic acid? Yes, we do, but we get it from our food. We don't make it ourselves. It's a beautiful piece of targeted warfare that hits the bacteria and leaves our own cells completely alone. Okay, the last weapon in our tour today is a real specialist. It's designed to hunt down a very particular kind of enemy, anaerobic bacteria. These are the microbes that actually thrive in places with no oxygen, like deep inside an abscess or down in your gut.
This drug, metronidazole, is amazing at its job, but it comes with one absolute unbreakable rule. Any guesses what it is?
That's it. Simple as that. Non-negotiable. While you're taking metronidazole, and for a few days after you finish, you cannot have any alcohol. I mean, zero. Not a sip.
So why the strict rule? Well, if you mix this drug with alcohol, it causes something called a disulfiram-like reaction. And trust me, it is intensely unpleasant. I mean, we're talking about feeling completely awful, severe vomiting, a headache that feels like someone's playing a drum solo inside your skull, a racing heart. It is a guaranteed way to feel absolutely miserable. So this is one warning you really want to take seriously.
Okay, so we've been through the whole arsenal. We've seen the brilliant strategies these drugs use. But the most important part of any battle is the soldier on the ground. And in this case, that's you. Your role here is critical. So think of this next part as your personal mission briefing.
So here are your 4 golden rules for any antibiotic mission. 1. Always tell your doctor and pharmacist about every single thing you're taking and any allergies you have, especially a sulfa allergy. 2. Ask the important questions. Should I take this with food? Do I need to stay out of the sun? Can I have a glass of wine? 3, and this one is huge, finish the entire course. And 4, speak up if something feels wrong, like that tendon pain we talked about.
You know what? I want to double down on that third point because it is the single most important rule of all. Finishing the full course is everything. Stopping early, even when you feel better, is like letting a weakened enemy army escape to regroup and learn your tactics. That is literally how we breed superbugs, how we create antibiotic resistance. You have to finish the mission.
And that, right there, leads us to the big, looming question. We have this incredible arsenal, these amazing weapons with brilliant strategies, but bacteria are smart. They're constantly evolving, learning our battle plans, and building up their defenses. So the real question we have to ask ourselves is, what happens when our best weapons start to fail? What happens when the bacteria start fighting back?